I want people to get what they want without accompanying stress. It shouldn't be stressful. We have enough stress we got COVID-19. We don't need freaking brands to create stress, My name is Richard George, PhD in marketing, was professor emeritus or a professor at St. Joe's University for 40 years now, professor emeritus. And during those 40 years, I spent time as a professor, written about a dozen different books, doing work consulting, done a lot of public speaking for trade groups and companies on marketing strategy, but also on customer service. And currently I do a fair amount of expert witness work, being called on for customer service and food marketing issues. And basically we're farm to table. We're not the agricultural side. Once it gets to the manufacturing plant, we're concerned with what happens till it gets to table, whether that table stops at a restaurant or whether that table goes to a food retail store. So it's everything. Our students go to work for Colgate and Hershey's and Nielsen, and they go to work for Whole Foods and Amazon and Walmart and the like.
Some companies choose to censor consumer feedback on their websites. They leave positive reviews on, they will completely remove negative reviews. It's absolutely great for PissedConsumer because when that happens, all that traffic just goes to PissedConsumer and outlets like ours. But how do you feel about it?
Companies have to have somebody monitoring every day. But the solution is not simply to remove them. The solution is to address them. Because as they say, and as you said, it just winds them up more. And they're on Google, they're on Yelp, they're on your site, there's a ton of sites which they can go and express their point of view. And for the most part, consumers today, good consumers will look at the neutral sites like like yours before you look at the company sites because they know there's bias.
In your perspective, what do consumers complain most about?
Well, my area of expertise is in food marketing. So if I look at the food marketing side, you can break it down like in the three aspects: the manufacturers, the food retailers, and food service. And manufacturer, the things you see in your site, it comes down to what I consider to be a performance issue for the most part. I bought this, tractor and it doesn't work. So most of those are performance based, although oftentimes it comes out as a price issue, but it's not really price, Michael. It's a value, which is what do you get for what you pay for? And so it looks like a performance issue. When you come down the retail channel, and I do a lot of work in the food service industry, and if you look there, it's probably three things. It's the quality of the product, it's the service, and it's the whole issue of cleanliness. Those are three things that come out. Like, you have offshoots, for example. I didn't like my table, surroundings issue. Again, you have price issues, but not direct price issues. No one goes on a restaurant, sees something for $40 and then later on complains. When they complain, say that was a $40 steak that didn't taste good. I didn't get my value. And then the third area, which arena is the retail food service. And again, similar things, to what you saw in food service, issues of quality and service and cleanliness. But also, what really winds people up in food service is when something is out of stock. And we've seen that's been, exacerbated by the pandemic, but that certainly is an issue. And what really winds them up even more than that is something which is out of code. They take it home, they go to prepare the meal, or they go to open the product, and it's been out of code for 3 months. So things like that. The other thing at food service, at retail, which is an issue, is checkout. The speed of checkout, how checkout is handled. But those are the kinds of things that usually come to the forefront in the food marketing arena. Starting with the manufacturer, did they deliver as promised? Ending with the food retailer, did they make the goods available in a timely fashion, convenient, in a friendly atmosphere?
If I go back into my memory and look at some of the food industry complaints that I remember from the consumer, and one item that stands out is they changed a recipe on us without notifying. How do you feel about these complaints, right? Food manufacturers have to adjust due to cost issues, due to delivery issues, whatever that might be. And they need to have an ability to adjust. And the product comes out with the same name as it was before, but now the recipe is different. It tastes different. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, when you say recipe, I think you're talking about the ingredients on the can. It's changed. It's the same name on the front. I think, again, it's like the situation we talked about, Tyson. You need to be transparent. There's nothing wrong with saying this is why we changed it. We took some salt out. We did this. I mean, because otherwise people are left to, why do they do this? Are they trying to pull something over? Usually what happens, Michael, they make these changes and never think about what is happening on the consumer end. Usually the changes are made for processing, pricing of raw materials, lots of reasons which are valid, but they're just not shared. I don't think they think about that.
How do you suggest manufacturers shall share the information?
You know what? It's ironic because what shows up as a problem could be a tremendous opportunity. For example, suppose we took out some of the salt. I would flag that other package, new and improved. I would talk about what the differences are. Point one. Point two, I think these things should be on their website. But as you say, people are walking down the supermarket aisle. They're more prone to look at that. So if you have a change, tell the consumer any way you can. A shelf tag, a product tag, new and improved, ingredients are changed, and then if you're on the website, you can explain some stories because not all ingredient changes are positive. We took this out because of this reason. We could not get this raw material, so we substituted this, and we hope that it still meets your taste palette. My advice to companies, when someone complains or someone, suggests something negative, the first thing we have to do is say, I'm sorry. But unfortunately, most of us think when we say, I'm sorry, Michael, we think we're saying I'm guilty. You address the person first. And I think that people can be very contrite if you're contrite and you're transparent. We made a mistake. This is a terrible thing, as opposed to try to put a spin on it. Americans are not stupid. They can see what's going on, and they will forgive. You do lose a lot of trust, and trust is something hard to reestablish.
Tell us a little bit. How did you stumble upon our website, and how long you're familiar with us?
Well, it's relatively recent. I've written a total of 5 books on customer power. And if I may just digress for a moment, I wrote those books because I'd written several books for companies in terms of how to deliver better customer service. And I realized most companies, there are some exceptions, which you have noted on PissedConsumer, but for the most part, companies were striving to do a better job, but consumers or customers could do more. And that's how I got into it. And I was just in the process of updating the most recent version to a 2021. I said, let me just see what else is going on. And and I had actually quoted you folks in a Retail Wire article a few months back. I said, let me take a look at this site. And, and there's some, for your viewers, if you haven't seen it, or obviously they're looking at the video, go to the site. I love your statistics. I love your trends. I love the way that you've broken it down. I have a number of different, folks who have done something comparable, but I like the way you've done it. I like your updates on the video on the coronavirus. I like the Mark Randazza's point of view. So it's some good stuff, and I highly recommend people pick and choose based on their needs.
What would you recommend to the brands that are listed on PissedConsumer?
Yeah, well, first of all, remember, as you said, by the time they get to you, they may be twisted up a notch or two. But I always tell people, I like PissedConsumer, and I like these websites because what's the alternative? If they don't complain, something that I can see as a company, what they do is they grumble. You know what grumblers are? They tell everybody but you. And guess what? They disappear and take all their friends with them. So I look as a complaint as a moment of opportunity. Here's a chance to fix something. And my research has shown, Michael, that just by responding to the person, even if you haven't adequately or totally or fully addressed their complaint, people feel better. So that's why the comment I made earlier, just reach out, say, I'm sorry you had this situation. Please give us time. Let us address it. I think that, we look at these sites as one way, everything coming in. I think that everybody should be monitoring PissedConsumer every day, these companies, and responding back to customers, or at least taking it into their into their weekly meetings and say, we have an issue here. You can see the trend, you can see the thread. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity. You guys have provided a great opportunity for these folks because you know why? It's visible. If it was just on the company's website, it might come into customer service and it dies there. But the whole world can look at it, including the CEO or the vice president of marketing, and say, "What the heck's going on here?" But by the way, those companies who don't wish to respond to those consumers, do that at your own risk. They're your consumers. They have choices. No one. There's very little in terms of brand monopoly. There's another brand, and what's the alternative? They go somewhere else. You know what? Going somewhere else is one thing, but if you're really wound up, remember, they tell the whole world. They tell the whole. They're on your site. They're on Google reviews. They're on Yelp. They're on everywhere telling this story. And why would you risk that? When you can have basically a pro bono way to respond. I love it. You look at you go on to, let's say like TripAdvisor. People said they didn't have a good experience. You watch the companies in which the general manager said, Michael, I'm sorry that didn't work out. We've addressed that. Please reach out to me. People talk about that stuff. That's a positive coming from a negative. And apology is not enough. We have to see a change in behavior. I think we have to have some way where we're trying to resolve your issue, or whatever you do, Michael. You never want to argue with the consumer. Once you argue with her, you've lost her. You want to say, I appreciate it. Give us a chance to fix it. But there's got to be action. But the action cannot be reaction.
So you are on the marketing side. How do you bring value to companies as far as customer service is concerned?
So that's a good question. What happened? Think about this. When you think about the situations when you had an issue with customer service, it was you're at the gate, or you're at the ticket counter at the airport, or you're at a supermarket, or you're checking out from Walmart, or you bought something from a Home Depot. What most customer service issues manifest themselves as a people issue. But for the reality, most customer service issues are systematic problems. And the best way I saw it years ago, a person was trying to go on a flight, and the person at the gate said, "Sir, Michael, I'm sorry, this is fully booked." And it went on, and finally said, "Michael, do you think I have a seat on this plane? I just won't give it to you." And the person woke up, said, "You know what, ma'am? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so aggressive." So what I talk all about, all the systems. I talk about all the ways that we make customers compromise. Compromise is a simple word for doing what they don't want to do. And so if you look at at a retail setting, if let me give you an example. If I go up there and I purchase something and I take it and it's scanned and it doesn't scan, and they say, go get another one. Why should I get another one? Figure out a price. Let's just get out of here. So it's the system problems are there. Not underestimating the people, and the people issue is certainly a big one. But for the most part, all my work has been designed. Let's look at all of your system, every place in which a customer interacts with your company. That's a moment of truth. That's an opportunity, whether it be calling in on the 800 line, whether it be placing an order, whether it be opening a product. Every place you interact with your product and your customers, your associate, is a moment of truth. And the goal of companies is just to manage the heck out of them, make sure they're positive. But so most of my work is on the system side, and then and I say it's at the end of the day, the lights go on, lights go up, the curtain open. You got to put on a good play. You got to put. But can you imagine the actors of Cats dressed in their civvies? Come on, and can you imagine the lights not being right, or can you imagine your music being off? There are all the things which are systematic. Which even they may do a great job as the players, but the system has to support them. And the same thing, even more so in terms of any kind of interaction in terms of manufacturer or retail or food service. You know, you walk in there, you're at a restaurant, and you don't get a setup because they didn't wash the dishes. I mean, it looks like it's your server's fault. I mean, but it's not. And we have a tendency to be a little bit aggressive with the person who's waiting on us, not recognizing that's another one. You know, you go in there, you love the hot turkey, and they're out. You know, the turkey's sold out. It's not the server's fault. So it's. I always ask people as a matter of fact, when you look at your consumer complaints on your website, and I will go back and look at them, how many of them were actually a system problem or a product problem versus a customer service employee interaction? And I dare say a lot of them. I mean, the restaurant business, you get you get a little more interaction. I can see that where the server was rude. Well, that's certainly something which falls on the people side, but oftentimes, I'll bet you a lot of your complaints have to do something which the system. You know, you ordered a bike and they forgot to put the handlebars in there. You know, there's stuff like that. Brand is a living organism. Everything you do affects the brand. It changes the brand, it reinforces the brand, or it denigrates the brand. You know, and I think you actually said it. You have to manage expectations. I mean, and I think what happens is many companies over promise, under deliver. What's it going to do? Let's just tell people what. Let's not play funny games with them. Let's communicate with them sincerely. You know, and that's a challenge. It's environment because everybody's looking for differential advantage. Mine is better than this, but only if A means something to consumer and B you deliver on that.
How can consumers get what they pay for?
Well, a couple things here. You know, we kind of talked about this before. I mean, I think they have to say what they want, and at the end of the day, they may or may not get what they want. One of the questions which I think you had on the list is, in terms of what do you recommend for customers to get what they want, deserve? I don't want to wait till we get to the complaint end. I want to start the front end, and again, if you look at my website, rjgeorge.com, my new book's up there, which I refer to PissedConsumer, but I talk about 7 winning customer rules. And to me, the most important one is number 2, do your homework. What do you want? What do you expect? What can this brand deliver? If you've done your homework going in, you reduce a lot of that angst later on because you know what? I should have known that. I mean, and then the second part of my list, rule number 6, I say don't just grumble, complain. This is what we've already talked about. But a lot of it is on the front end. I spend most of the book talking about how to do your homework and organize a plan so that what are you going to give up and what are you going to get. And this could be from, like you're buying a new car, a new computer. It probably is less so which, brand of green beans am I going to buy. But it does have some merit in terms of forcing the customer to think about what they want and what they expect from this seller.
What recommendations would you make to a consumer when consumer wants to leave a proper feedback to the brand? What shall consumer speak about in their review to properly deliver the message to the brand?
Well, that's a terrific question. If I could be, my website's a free download of the book, and I actually have a couple letters in there, a handwritten letter and an email in terms of what you should write to a company. Company contacts. And, I think you should indicate, but bring all the data. This is what happened, ... as much information, product, SKU, data purchase, whatever it is, give them some information, tell them what happened, what went wrong. And then the next question is, what do you expect, in your site? Would you expect a refund? I mean, it's what clearly put your expectations down in terms of what you like them to do. And wherever possible, pictures and anything it can support should be in that. I would recommend email over snail mail in today's environment. But you give them a chance first. I mean, there's some good websites with company contact information in terms of who you should write to. Because the difficulty is, Michael, if I go on the website of the company And again, in defense of the customer service person on the other end, they have rules. I'm sorry, sir, this doesn't fall within these rules. Goodbye, good luck. And that's why often if you have a phone call, you say, well, can I talk to the next person up? And again, not denigrating the person who helped me. So I think you got to provide as much information. And I don't like you figure it out. I like the customer saying, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. And then you can go from there.
Can consumers influence the industry?
Yes, they have a terrific opportunity. And then you had another question about trends. Who sets them? Trends are set by consumers, and the good companies follow them. I mean, you look at examples in terms of, where did gluten-free come from? One company didn't say, I'm going to do gluten-free. Where did the plant-based, foods come from? Where did, online come from? Online, but online with the function of other trends. People didn't want to go out. Then you had the pandemic. So people do, in fact, set trends, and the good companies are the ones who respond to trends. My expression is we can't change the wind, but we can adjust our sails. What are we going to do differently here?
Can the written content, can the reviews influence the brands?
Yeah. By the way, years ago, the only way we really had input was by how we voted with our dollar. Now we have this great vehicle. We can talk to companies, and the good companies are the ones that say, you know what, we can do a better job. And I've actually seen examples where companies actually change procedures because of what people. I'll give you a good example. Take Publix, retailer down in Florida. Publix start doing sandwiches. Hoagies, Subways, like submarines. And what happened is the customer said, the way they had the line set up, it was a vertical line. Michael. So, it's like you're third in line, and it seems like the first two are never going to get there. Then you finally get there and say, yeah, I'm here now, right? Well, then what they did is they listened to consumers. Consumers said, why don't you do the line like Subway? Turn it around. So the whole time I order my roll, I'm moving. Something's going on. They actually listened to consumers and changed their whole layout. Otherwise, how would they have known that? People would have just gone to Subway to order. But people told them, we like your sandwiches. We don't like the way we wait in line. It wasn't so much the wait, Michael. It's the perception of doing nothing. You're number 3. But this way, you're up here and you're looking. And boy, how much lettuce do I want? There's a good example of what listening to customers does. My goal, and what I do now, I do a lot of pro bono with women's groups and seniors and like talking about this whole issue of customer service. But I think there's 3 things I want to do. I want people to get what they want without accompanying stress. It shouldn't be stressful. We have enough stress we got COVID-19. We don't need freaking brands to create stress, Second, I want to make sure that people get their money's worth. People work hard for their money. What do they do and how they're going to make sure they get that? And thirdly, I want to help people get relief, which is where you come in when they don't get their money's worth. That's my mantra. That's my goal right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much.